Well, Josh Glessing, welcome back to Wisconsin.
It's incredible. It's surreal to be back home. I called my mom last month and said, hey, we're coming back to Wisconsin, and she did not have that on her radar as a phone call she was going to get from me. So.
Well, I'm sure, Josh as a kid didn't have it on his radar either. I mean, what an incredible full circle moment. You have said you're a self-proclaimed Bucks fan, lifetime Bucks fan. You got to have some stories, right, of little Josh coming to games?
I mean, I've got so many great stories, and one of them will be a little long-winded, so bear with me, is, if I was lucky when I was younger, I'd get to go to 1 or 2 Bucks games a year, sit in the last row of the upper bowl. And I remember going to one game when I was 8 or 9 years old with my mother and I think maybe Cub Scouts. And we went down at the Bradley Center to the old loading dock where you could stand there and get autographs. And I had a stack of basketball cards, and some guy comes out and everyone says, Eric, Eric, Eric. And I handed an Eric Murdoch card to Eric. And Eric handed it back to me and said, sorry, kid, that's not me. And it was Eric Mobley. So I left dejected and I walked away. My mom said, we've got to go. We've got to get back down to Racine. Yeah. And some kid came running up after me and handed me an autographed Eric Mobley card because he saw what happened and how crushed I was. Uh-huh. And I found that basketball card 10 years ago. I was working at Goldman Sachs and I was going to leave to go to private equity. I found that card and I just thought, sports is so powerful. Like this lasting memory that I have of this kid at a game. Mm-hmm. And I put it in a big case and it sat on my desk for the last 12 plus years, long before I ever thought about coming back to Milwaukee, is just this reminder of why I work in sports and the power that sports have in community and the way to touch people, 8-year-olds who live in Racine, Wisconsin. So that is, I've thought about this kid who's handed me that basketball card every day for the last 30 years. He's never thought about me, and you can have these seminal moments in people's lives, and it's incredible.
And now you see, all the little boys and little girls here at Fiserv Forum, and it's got to be, like I said, an incredible full circle moment. Where were you Game 6 of 2021?
I came to Game 3. I did not come to Game 6. I was in Columbus, Ohio, watching on TV, and it was such an exciting thing because at that point I'd had my hands on the building of Fiserv Forum, right? I helped Peter and ownership finance the project, and I was a part of a lot of aspects of the building. So to be able to watch that happen in my home state, in an arena that I had an impact on, was so special to me. And unfortunately, I wasn't here. Like I said, I was at Game 3, but it was incredible.
I'd like to, we sit with Fiserv Forum in the background, and you mentioned that you were a part of the fledgling planning stages with Peter. There was a meeting in Kansas City, 12 years ago. Share with Bucks fans what that was about.
I mean, so we were hired by Wes Edens and Mark Lazary to advise them on the financing of all things Fiserv Forum. And as part of that, I actually sent out the RFP just because I knew a bunch of the architects on behalf of ownership. Because I sent it out before Peter was here, because Peter came in October of 2014. And I actually have one of the RFP responses because I sent it out. It says, Dear Josh Glessing, Wes Edens, Mark Lazary, Jamie Dinan, and Mike Fascitelli, we are pleased to respond. And they asked me to go to Kansas City because at that point I'd seen arenas and stadiums all over the world, so I just had a view of these buildings. So they invited me to go to Kansas City to meet with all of the architects that were pitching. And that was one of the first instances where I said, my Milwaukee Bucks story is coming full circle. Right, I grew up a fan, and now I'm sitting here in a room, and I'm going to have a voice at the table for a building that my mom drives by on her way to work every day. So that was really, really, cool and special, and that's what we have here today, a incredible building designed by Populous, and I was in the room, and that was special. You
have a unique experience where this transitional period, you get to learn from Peter Feigin on a day-to-day basis. I mean, paint a picture of what does that look like between the two of you during this time?
Well, fortunately, going back to 2014, Peter's been a friend since we sat in that room in Kansas City. And we've done so many things together, transformative things for the organization together. And there have been a lot of people over the course of the past week who have said, Josh, you've got really big shoes to fill. And my view is, I can't fill Peter Feigin's shoes. I don't think my job is to fill Peter Feigin's shoes. My job is to build on the legacy that he has cemented in place in Milwaukee. And fortunately, with our friendship, and fortunately with just the person and the character that Peter is, we're 9 days in. Yeah. But it's been pretty smooth so far.
Only 9 days. That's amazing. And this place, like as we talked about, didn't exist. You walk around in 2026. What are your takeaways here of Deer District and Fiserv Forum and where it can go in the future?
Yeah, I'll say this: when Peter took over in 2014, the Bucks had a long way to go. They had a lot to do. They had to transform the brand. They had to build a new building. They had to put a competitive product on the court. I step in with a lot of those things on really, really solid footing. Most of those things on really solid footings. So when I think about where we are and where we need to go, it's continue to grow on that. It's continue to build on what's in place. The infrastructure is there. John Horst is a pro's pro on the basketball side, and he and the entire organization are dedicated to continuing to put a competitive product on the court. But the stability is so important. So now it's just where can we go from here? Where can we grow from here? How can we continue to use this brand on a global platform to shine a light on the city of Milwaukee?
You've been an executive member of the Haslam Sports Group, but most recently the president of business operations with the Columbus Crew. It's that aspect of your background I'm most curious about. With the Crew, you were part of hosting an all-star game in 2024. You've been a part of championships. You've been a part of several revenue successes. How does that experience help you with this?
Yeah, I'll say the Columbus Crew organization is much in the same way as the Bucks right now. It is turning something that at one point people talked about relocating to a different market into an organization that is the North Star for a lot of the other organizations in the league. You know, how can we do what they have done? How can we turn our organization around the way that the Milwaukee Bucks or the Columbus Crew did? And they're both very much in this place of where can we go from here? And a lot of people want to put the Milwaukee Bucks into a sports silo and say, this is a sports story. The reality is it can be an economic impact story. It can be a growth story. The concerts that come here that have economic impact otherwise don't come here, but for Fiserv Forum. So we have to capitalize on that. We've got to grow that. We have to engage in the community. We have to engage with our fans, and we have to ensure that we're giving back to both of them. And you know, the beauty is when it's on stable footing, you can do so much more. This is not a turnaround story anymore. This is a growth story.
Right, right. It's and to that point, there's always a checklist, right, with a new job. And you already said, you know, not even a month into this job, but what are your main priorities as president of this franchise?
Yeah, I'm going to say it over and over again. You know, there are three pillars that everything has to guide. Win, fan, community. We have to put a competitive product on the court. We've got to take great care of our fans. We've got to give back to our community. So anything that doesn't fall into one of those three buckets is, you know, can't be a key priority. And again, the community's love for the Milwaukee Bucks is so strong and it's so deep that, you know, we have an engaged audience, we have an engaged region. So what do we do with that? So that's going to be the focus: is continuing to engage with our fans, continue to give back to the community, and ultimately ensure that John Horst has the resources he needs to do what he's been doing for the last decade.
There are no fans like Wisconsin fans, and that's the biggest compliment I can give him. When I took this job, you know, I've always been a Midwest person, so I understand kind of the blue collar, we love our sports teams kind of mentality. Milwaukee, the state of Wisconsin, is that through and through. And as you know, I mean, growing up in Racine, this is a Milwaukee Bucks fan base, as you alluded to, that wants consistency with their team and is just clamoring for another championship. How do you, as a president, handle that aspect of it?
I think it's fair. I think it's reasonable. I think we want the same things. You know, we show up to work every single day on the business side, on the basketball side, with those same goals in mind. And as an organization, we're all fans, right? And I don't have to convince myself to be in the shoes of a Wisconsin fan as I continue to evolve. I've been it my whole life. Mm-hmm. My brother lives right here in Milwaukee. He will give me real-time feedback when we're not doing what we need to do for the fans and to put a competitive product on the court. And it's fair. We want the same things. They don't want something that is unreasonable. They don't want something that we as an organization don't want, whether that's the owners, whether that's basketball ops, whether that's business ops. We want the same thing, and we're going to work towards those same goals.
Obviously, Giannis is front and center with those championship goals, and there are few better sports stories than his story. Now that, I mean, you've watched it from afar, you've watched it now from the inside. What strikes you about the Giannis effect?
it's real, right? This, I was not necessarily around the organization when this scrawny kid from Greece comes in, but the impact that that person can have on a team, on a league, on a sport, locally and globally is huge, right? It helps the brand be a global brand. It's helped in a lot of ways, and he's so important to this community. And he came out last week and said definitively he wants to be a part of this organization going forward, and that's exciting because I can't speak for John Horst or Doc Rivers, but I'm fairly certain they want the exact same thing.
For Bucks fans who are watching this, and I know just a very, very short stint here on the job, what's your message to them here for the future? What can they look forward to?
We're going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to lean into the community, like I said, Win fan community, and that's not going to change. And we're going to show up, we're going to be present, and we're going to compete. So that's the message. I don't see the message changing, and we're excited. I'm excited. My family's excited.
Your mom wants you to move to Racine, right? Find a house in Racine.
Well, this is really, really important. I've run into some issues, and I'm hoping it's past her bedtime and she's sleeping right now. But I've made it very clear to her that the commute from Racine to Milwaukee just isn't reasonable. And I had breakfast with someone this morning who commutes from Racine to Milwaukee. You cannot, if you ever run into Paula, please do not tell her that's reasonable or realistic.
Well, it's an incredible story. The Wisconsin kid, now president of the Milwaukee Bucks. Again, like I said, welcome back home.
Happy to be here. Thank you so much.
All right, go Bucks.
Go Bucks.